guys, welcome to You the Boss podcast, episode 93. I'm your host, Pam, and today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of us kind of quietly struggle with, but we also don't know how to talk about it. And that's going to be learning to trust yourself again. Not trusting other people, not trusting timing, but yourself. If we're being honest, one of the hardest things to rebuild isn't a relationship with someone else. It's the relationship that you have with yourself. At some point, something shifted. There was a silent break in the trust. Maybe you said that you were going to start something and you didn't. Maybe you stayed in something a little bit longer than you know that you should have. Maybe you ignored your gut again for the millionth time. Or maybe you made promises to yourself that you didn't keep. And over time, without realizing it, you stopped believing. Not in a dramatic way, not in a very loud or obvious way, but in the small moments. You said things like, I'll start Monday. I'll wake up early tomorrow. I'm not going back to that situation or to that friendship or to that relationship or in the pattern at that job. I deserve better. And then you didn't follow through. And slowly your inner voice started to sound like less like the truth and more just like noise. Like you stopped believing, like, yeah. Your inner voice is like, sure. And I think it's important to talk about this topic. The reason that you don't trust yourself right now, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that there's been a pattern. And we need to normalize that. We need to normalize talking about that pattern. Self-trust is built the same way that you trust anyone else. Consistency, honesty, follow through. So when you break promises to yourself, you ignore your intuition, you choose comfort over alignment, you choose keeping the quote unquote peace over speaking up, or you abandon yourself in those hard moments, your brain pays attention. Your brain takes note. And it says, why should I believe you this time? And that's not self-sabotage. That's your mind trying to protect you from disappointment. There is a cost to this broken trust. When you don't trust yourself, everything is harder. You overthink simple decisions. You look outside of yourself for validation. You second guess your instincts. You hesitate when it's time to move. And the real cost is that you stop fully showing up in your life. Because deep down, there's a voice that keeps getting validated because of this lack of trust that's saying, what's the point? You won't stick to it anyway. You're not going to show up anyway. Everything is always harder for you. And that voice is not the truth. If you take anything from this episode, let it be that. That little negative voice in your head, that's not the truth. It's just evidence of your past. It's being replayed into your future. So I'm going to say kind of ignore that voice because it's not the truth. We want to talk a little bit about rebuilding that trust, for real this time. Not just to motivate you, not just to accomplish some goal, not to just, get through and finally make that breakthrough and get that thing at work. It's for the real stuff. And today I'm going to give you some pointers and we're going to talk about some tools. But with this episode, you're going to put them into action. Because future you, that's what future you does. So let's get into it. That work that we're doing, that we're rebuilding the trust, it's not just for hype. It's for proof. You're giving yourself proof that you can. So number one, start making smaller promises. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they go too big too fast. And they stand behind the I'm just the type of person that goes all in. But you're setting yourself up for failure that way. You can't change your whole life by tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. If it was that simple, everyone would do it, and everyone doesn't do it because it's not that simple. You're going all in this time. It's just not that. You cause burnout that way. Instead, why don't you try making promises that are so small that you can't break them? I'll go on a 10-minute walk. What's really 10 minutes? 10 minutes are going to happen regardless. So what is just a 10-minute walk? I'll drink a bottle of water. I'll spend 5 minutes working on this. It sounds so simple, but that's the point. You're not trying to impress yourself. You're trying to rebuild credibility. You're trying to rebuild that trust. Number 2, keep the promises even when it's inconvenient. Self-trust is not built when it's easy. It's built in moments when you don't feel like it, but you do it anyway. Every time you follow through, you send a message. I do what I say I'm going to do, and your brain starts to believe you again. Number 3, this one is big. Stop ignoring your intuition. Not in a woo-woo way, not in a woman's intuition doesn't exist. I know some of you that listen to this podcast may actually believe that. Science backs that intuition is real. So stop ignoring it. Think about the last time that you had a gut feeling and you didn't listen. Now think about how it turned out. Yeah, your intuition isn't broken. It's just been overridden. You have to start small here too, though. If something feels off, just pause. Sometimes it being off isn't that something's wrong. It's that something's new. If something feels right, lean into it. If you need to take time, take it. You don't need to have all the answers all the time. You just need to start listening again. Number 4, forgive yourself, but don't let yourself off the hook. This is kind of where people get a little bit confused. You say, well, I'm being graceful to myself. I'm being nice to myself. But you're also letting yourself off the hook. It's like, oh, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay that you messed up, for the millionth time today. No. The best apology to yourself is corrected behavior. So that's where you start to build that balance in your life. You're not going to rebuild yourself or rebuild that trust by beating yourself up, but you also don't rebuild yourself or that trust by constantly making excuses and taking them, making excuses for yourself. You can say, I understand why I did that, but I'm going to choose differently now. Growth requires both compassion and accountability. Number 5, become someone that you can rely on. Ask yourself this. If I were someone else, would I trust me? Not based on your intentions, but based on your actions. And if the answer is no, that's okay. Because today can be the day that starts to change that. It's not perfect, it's consistent. I want to give you a look into what it feels like when the trust comes back, when that self-trust is rebuilt. When you start trusting yourself again, those things shift. You move faster. You're not second guessing as much. You stop needing everyone else's opinion. You don't need to ask 7 people about an opinion about something. You can just kind of stick to yourself and say, you know what, I trust me. I know I'm doing the right thing. You feel grounded, even when the chaos of regular day-to-day life is not grounded. And most importantly, you start to feel safe with yourself again. That kind of confidence, it doesn't come from motivation. It comes from evidence. It comes from validating yourself and knowing that you know that you do what you say. You know how to show up in situations because you're listening to your intuition. You're taking a moment, pause if you need to. You are not reactive. You know what you're doing when it comes to the day-to-day of trusting yourself and allowing yourself to lead in any situation that you need to handle. I've come up with a little bit of a list to kind of help you get started, to kickstart this rebuilding of self-trust. Number 1, the one promise method. Instead of trying to overhaul your life, like we talked about, your entire life by tomorrow morning at 7, choose one small promise to keep every day. An example of that is maybe you're making your bed. Maybe you're going on a 10-minute walk. Maybe you're journaling for 5 minutes. You're drinking your water before coffee. You're reading 2 pages of a book. You're reading for 10 minutes. You are, instead of scrolling mindlessly, you have a book in the bathroom so that couple minutes that you're in the bathroom, you could read a page. The goal is not productivity. I just want to be very clear with that. This isn't a productivity always kind of podcast. It's just proven to yourself that you follow through. Small consistency rebuilds the identity faster than you having huge bursts of motivation. Number 2, self-trust journaling. At the end of each day, write down one promise you kept, one moment that you listened to yourself, one thing that you handled better today than the old version of you would have. This trains your brain to look for evidence of growth instead of evidence of failure. A lot of people can only replay mistakes. Self-trust grows when you start tracking your wins too. Number 3, the pause before yes rule. People who struggle with self-trust often abandon themselves to avoid disappointing others. Before saying yes to anything, pause and think, do I want to do this? Am I saying yes out of guilt? Will this create resentment later? Learning to honor your own needs rebuilds inner safety and confidence. Number 4, keep a proof list. This one is kind of like fun for me because we so often are so quick to remember the ways that we fail, remember the things that went wrong, that we don't look at the proof in the things that are going good and the things that are moving forward. So create a note in your phone called Proof I Can Trust Myself. Add moments like maybe the times that you got through hard things, goals you accomplished, boundaries that you held, maybe a hard conversation that you had to have that went better and you were glad that you had the hard conversation, habits that you stayed consistent with, decisions that worked out. On hard days, your brain will try to convince you that you've never been capable. This list becomes evidence against that narrative. Number 5, reconnect with your intuition. Start practicing listening to yourself in low stakes situations. Example, what do I actually want to eat? Do I need rest or do I need to speed things up? What feels aligned, not just impressive? The more you stop outsourcing every decision, the stronger your inner voice becomes. Self-trust is built through repeated self-listening. As always, I want to give you some book recommendations. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's simple, but it's transformative, and it's around integrity, self-awareness, and personal freedom. The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. This book is kind of powerful because it's about self-sabotage, emotional healing, and becoming the person that you're trying to be. To close out a little bit, make this rebuilding of your self-trust a quiet comeback. Rebuilding self-trust isn't loud. There's not going to be a lot of big moments where everything suddenly clicks and everyone's applause. There's this big applause for you, a lot of clapping. It's quiet. It's choosing to follow through today. It's keeping one promise today. It's listening to your gut today. And then doing it again tomorrow. You don't need a completely different version of yourself. You need to start showing up for the version of you that's already here. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe to this and to us on YouTube so that you don't miss the next episode. And if no one's told you lately, you can trust yourself again. You just have to give yourself a reason to. I'll talk to you in the next episode.